We're very professional for being unprofessional.
Because we're not talking. Yep, but I won't put lube up in there.
I'm having a bad night.
You need some wine.
You need some wine.
Is that terrible to say? I'm very politically correct. 3, 2, 1. Hi everyone, and welcome to a very special episode of Geek-Cetera. This episode will be a little bit different compared to our normal episodes, as it's going to deal strictly with Granite State Comic Con, also known as Granite Con, which we got to attend last weekend. And it's also going to have two special guests, that of Superfriendlier, who's Sarah, Kyle's wife, and Specky, who's Rebecca, my wife. So say hello, everyone.
Hi.
Hey.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Welcome.
So, very good. Now, let's get geeky. To begin, I thought we could take a moment just to discuss our opening thoughts of the show, Granite State Comic Con. So, to begin, let's start with Kyle. What did you think of Comic Con?
Comic Con, though it was comparatively small, I loved it. I can't even imagine what a big one is like. It was my first Comic Con. I'd say within 5 seconds, I loved it. I walked in the first 5 seconds, I thought I won't be here more than 30 minutes. But then we were there for 6 hours from open to close. So we really liked it. I really liked it.
Yeah, it was a great time. And I could tell, I'm going to get into that a little later, that you were in Nerdvana.
Yeah.
So, Sarah, what did you think of Comic-Con?
I thought it was great. It was more elaborate than I thought it would be, but I was very impressed with the cosplayers that were there and their attention to detail about the different way that they were dressing. It was something that I was really happy to go to, and I'm glad that I checked it out.
Nice. Very cool. And what about you, Rebecca?
Well, first off, thanks for having me on the show. So this wasn't actually my first Granite Con. I have been before. But I feel like every time I've been, they do get better and better. I did see a lot more people this year, and some of the costumes, I agree with Sarah, they really paid a lot of attention to detail, and they were really awesome, which we'll elaborate on a little bit later.
Very good. And then what I felt, I mean, like Rebecca, I've been before. This is probably my 4th or 5th Granite State Comic Con that I've gone to. It has gotten better and better every year. The first one I went to was probably 10 or so years ago, and it was small. There was definitely not as many people. There was not as many guests, and the cosplay was a lot less. And this time, there was tons of cosplay. Everywhere you looked, you saw someone in costume, and that was really cool. I knew, Kyle, that you were going to have a great time, because I think we were there for less than a minute. And I saw your eyes light up, and you said, "Oh my goodness, they have 50-cent comics." And you ran over to the first table that was there, and you just started looking through the comic boxes that they had lined up on the table. And I'm like, yeah, he loves this.
That's pretty accurate.
So, I mean, and I also, this was our first time going as Geek-Cetera, which we had some nice t-shirts made up, and we had some business cards that we were handing out. And we were kind of doing this as a feeler to see if maybe this was something in the future that we'd want to actually exhibit at. And I thought we got really good response from the people that we met and talked to. They seemed excited that there was a podcast there. And we got a lot of people who were willing to say that they wanted to come on the show and interview and stuff. And it made me really excited to do more of these cons. And I can't wait to do another one in the future. I don't know about you.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I think what we did as a, street team, for lack of a better word, that's what somebody called us. But when we did have our shirts, we had those wonderful shirts with the logo that Indy Riley made for us. Shout out to her. And we went, as a team. You had yours, I had mine. Becky's was a little bit different with her, and Sarah's with her design. But walking around together, we had a lot more people that would say, "Hey, what's Geek-Cetera?" Like if I was just walking around in that t-shirt, I probably wouldn't get nearly as many people asking about it. But we definitely stood out in a way that wasn't cosplay.
And that's what's kind of cool about going to a place like a Comic-Con like Granite Con, it's smaller. People are curious and they'll ask you things like that, Having gone to conventions in my secular life for work, no one is asking you what is on your shirt and you actually have to breach that subject every time. Whereas this time, it was people were asking, hey, what's that? What do you do? Why are you here? And that was really cool. And it made me, put me at ease, as I was a little nervous, because sometimes at these cons, especially when, for lack of a better term, you're suitcasing is what they call it, where you're not exhibiting, but you're going up to these booths and trying to create conversation so you can talk a little bit about what you do. Sometimes they get a little touchy about that. But at a place like Granite Con or at a comic book convention, you really don't have that kind of superiority thing going on. Everyone just wants to get to know each other and everyone's really friendly.
Yeah, and I know you had said that you were a little worried going into it, that we were going in with as a street team without having paid any extra, money to get set up there, and we had our business cards ready. I know you thought maybe we get talked to or shown the door, but really I thought everybody was pretty welcoming.
It was really was a great experience. Looking forward to doing more cons, and even looking forward to doing Granite Con again next year and maybe even exhibiting at it. So super excited about it. There was a nice lineup of guests that were at Granite State Comic Con. We didn't really get a whole lot of time with many of them, but we did get to spend some time with one of them. And that celebrity guest that we met was Dante Bosco, who was Rufio. Unfortunately, Sarah, you got to the show a little late, so you didn't get to meet Dante.
I know, I'm so upset.
Yeah, it was a good time. And I just thought we'd just take a few minutes, maybe just of our first impressions of Dante, what we felt about getting to meet him. And I guess we could start with you, Kyle. What did you think about Dante?
I think my biggest takeaway was not even our interaction with him, but there was a girl ahead of us in line who was there by herself to meet him. And I can't say I heard much of the conversation, but he was very, very nice with her. And it looked like he was actually taking a video of her on his phone. Like she had something to say. Maybe she knew someone that he knew. So he actually took a video of her saying whatever she was saying. And it looks like, he was just being a really awesome
Yeah, I noticed that as well. He was great with everyone that went up there, even those who weren't going up there to spend money. And and that's not always the case. A lot of times they're just trying to push what they're there for, because they're there to make money. Obviously, this is some part of the way that they might supplement some of their income. And he wasn't pushy in that way at all.
No, and now that you say that, I don't think that girl did buy anything. I don't think she got a signature. Or she bought any photos, but he still took a video. I thought that was cool. You're right.
Yeah. So what did you think of Dante, Becky?
I was really impressed too. I agree with what you're saying. He seemed very down to earth. I normally try not to get starstruck, and I can't say that I was starstruck, but as soon as I looked over and saw that he was there, my initial thought was, let's go. So when we got over there, I was getting a little more anxious in line, but it's just because I watched Hook so many times, so many times as a kid. So this is like meeting someone that you've watched on TV for so long, and you don't get to do that very often. So that was really exciting to me. And then him just interacting with us on a very personal level, and not, I agree with Josh, there was no superiority feeling there with him. He was very down to earth. He even mentioned, like, yeah, I want to go have a drink after, which we probably could have asked him, we want to go together, but we didn't. But we probably could have, and I bet you he would have. That's how cool he was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought he was definitely down to earth, cool guy, the kind of guy that you would be like, I could hang out with him and it wouldn't be weird. Like, we could be friends. Even though, something that just could be the way he is, but that's the way he really did come across that way. He was super friendly.
No, Kyle's super friendly.
Oh man.
He was
Well, he was Rufio.
Maybe he wasn't as super friendly as Kyle.
He was Rufio.
Yeah. But
I get sick of me calling him Rufio.
Yeah. Well, it was funny, and I know you guys were there. You know this, but I played with his toy when I was a kid because I got that Rufio toy in the McDonald's box, and I was thinking about that. We were standing there. I was like, I don't want to be a little
9-year-old boy.
Yeah, 9-year-old fanboy right now, but this is so
Yeah.
cool. And I would,
Yeah.
and man, and he just wanted to know about us. Like he asked us what we really liked. He
asked us what we love personally. Like, what is your thing that you love? And I said Star Wars, thinking he had no connection to Star Wars really. But then he told us that he did have a connection to Star Wars. He actually voice acted a character in Rebels named Jai Kell, I think his name was. It was the episode where Ezra goes into the Imperial Academy, and he made some friends with some of the other Imperial cadets. And Jai Kell was one of those cadets, and that character was actually voice acted by Dante Vasco. So I had no idea when he said that, and then he was able to pull out a picture of that character. I had to have an autograph at that point. And so I was like, yeah, what does it cost? I'm getting it because it's Star Wars and it's Dante Basco. So I'm like, yeah, I got to have it. And I actually got that framed, and I have it sitting just to my right on my desk. So, and he signed it to me, Kyle, and Luke, and said, may the Force be with you, and then put his signature on it. So I thought that was really cool.
Yep.
And, the only bummer I would say is because when we initially went up there, we were like, well, we don't really have anything we want to get from him, but we just wanted to have a conversation with him. And then we were hoping to maybe get a selfie. And we were told that was not selfie day. And it wasn't even by him. It was by there was a girl with a red shirt that was next to him that seemed like she maybe worked for the con. And, she said, no, sorry, there's no selfies today, which was a little bummer. But, I guess that would probably be my only negative thing I would say is that why isn't it selfie day?
Yeah,
but that wasn't even against him, so.
Yeah, and it wasn't even against him. It's just, I didn't know that there was only certain days you could get selfies with them. I would have paid for a selfie with them, to be honest, because it would have been really cool to have, a picture, a memory like that I could remember. But I'll have the autograph.
Don't tell them I snuck away and did take a little bit of a far away selfie.
Good girl.
Yeah, but oh well. That's I guess something to learn for next time. Maybe they only do selfies on Sundays. I don't know, but
he seemed like he was cool with it.
He seemed like if we would have pushed it, he would have been like, "Yeah, we'll do it. We're doing one." But I wasn't gonna, break the rules and get thrown out of Granite State Comic Con. So, so very good. So, you got anything else you can think about that conversation that we had with him? I know that we brought up, because one of the really cool things is that he worked with Robin Williams, which is awesome. I'm a big fan of Robin Williams. We didn't really get to spend much time with anyone else, really, just Dante. But, as we get better at these cons, I'm sure we'll go down the guest line a little bit more. Especially when really, in the past, when I've gone to cons, there wasn't anyone I really wanted to meet. Like, I got to meet this person. Like, he was the first one. But after meeting him, it was such a good experience that I think I would be more interested in meeting others as well. So.
Well, I mean, this was my first, and I definitely wanted to meet him. Sarah would have liked to have met
the Frozen girls.
The Frozen girls
the
and
girl
Jasmine.
From Frozen. Yeah,
Jasmine.
and the girl who voiced Jasmine. Yeah, there was also another Disney animator that was there.
What?
Yeah, there was a Disney animator
You
there.
guys!
Sorry.
Oh my goodness.
Well, if you had been there
I was doing a wedding. You can't just leave a wedding.
So here, I got the book right here. So Linda Larkin is the girl that was there that voiced Jasmine. Then there was Eva Bella, who was young Elsa. Livy Stubenach.
Don't hurt yourself.
Yeah, young Anna. And then this guy whose name was Rick Farmelo. He says he's a Walt Disney animator that worked on Aladdin, Beauty and the Beast, and Little Mermaid.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? It's been like 25 years. I bet I could put that on my resume and people would believe it.
Princess Jasmine was there herself. She probably knew him.
Yeah, that's true.
I probably would. I don't even know what I would say to them though. Like, hey,
Good job on the voice acting.
Job.
What was it like? Where do you find your inspiration from? There are so many questions.
We need Sarah there.
needed-
She can be our interviewer.
I was just like, Dante Basco.
Yeah, I'd ask those little Frozen girls how much money they made for 5 seconds of voice work.
Yeah.
Well, one of them was the daughter of one of the writers or They were kids of people that were involved with the movie.
Well, that's
Oh,
not
really?
special.
Oh, that's cool. Okay.
From
And now
what I
they're doing.
remember.
Now they're touring the Comic-Con circuit. That's
Yeah,
pretty
now
cool.
they're little celebrities, so
Yeah.
good deal for them.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
guess it's good for the kids.
Yeah. So that was it for the guests. That's it for the guests. But before we move on, let's hear from one of our sponsors.
This segment is brought to you by Geek-Cetera.
Do you have a comment that you'd like read on the air? If so, email at geekceteranetwork@gmail.com. Looking forward to hearing from you.
All right, so we made a bunch of new friends at Granite State Comic Con, and I thought it would be fun to just spend a few moments talking about some of the people that we met that stood out in our minds. So let's start with you, Sarah. Who did you meet? I know you got there a little late, but who did you see or talk to that you really stood out to you?
I don't remember their names. You guys will probably say their names after this. But there was a married couple where the husband designed lightsabers. That was cool.
Yes. Yep, that was Randy
liked that.
Smith.
Yeah. You guys took me back to a few people that you guys got to meet, so I don't want to like do any spoilers because you guys are gonna have way better things to say.
No worries.
I am heartbroken that I didn't get to meet Dante. I've had a crush on him for like 20 years, so I'll just end with that.
No, you know what? You made a friend because what was the, what did we buy?
Oh my goodness. So Kyle makes me go to the corner of the room, this giant big room with all of these exhibitors, and there's this giant beanbag chair that's long and just huge. And the kid goes, "Sit down." So I sit down and it's really nice, but then he says, "Stand up and fall backwards." And I was like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, it's like a crazy trust exercise. Just fall backwards." So I was like, "All right." So I fell backwards and I was so comfortable, I made Kyle buy the chair. That was nice. It was a long day and I was exhausted, so he got me at a weak point. It was great.
That guy was a good salesman.
What is a Yagibo beanbag chair?
Yeah, they were out of Nashua.
Yeah, they have a store in Nashua. But we got the beanbag chair and then the little armrest thing that goes with it, and now that is my go-to seat when we watch TV.
So
and Kyle uses it for work, which is nice.
So it's arrived?
We have it, yes.
Oh, nice.
I was pretty sold on it too. We kind of like had the plan to go through the first time when we got there, go through really quick and see everybody, but we stopped there for quite a while and did all those little tests, and let me tell you, by the end of it, it was really hard to walk away without getting one.
Yeah, that guy was
You
a
can
good
come
salesman.
hang out at our house and use ours.
I think I might, if you're not already in it.
Yeah, and it was cool because I think you guys were the ones that pointed out. We had gone and I said, I gotta take my wife back here because I really wanted one. And then Sarah was doing the test and she was sitting there in the chair and she was like, "Oh, babe." And I was like, I knew right then. I got it. We're gonna get this chair.
Yeah, they were really comfortable, and those guys knew how to sell those chairs because they had you sit in the most comfortable positions, and it was just wonderful. It was nice.
After walking and standing all day, it was just like, oh, you did not want to move.
Yeah. So, very good. Was there anything else? Anyone else that came to mind, or?
No.
All right.
I didn't get to meet it. I got there.
I know, you did get there
I had
late.
a wedding that day, so I didn't
Yeah.
even get to the convention center until like 4 o'clock, and then they were done at 6. So by the time we spoke to the few people that we did, I unfortunately didn't get to meet a ton of people, but it was still fun. I'm still glad that I went.
Yeah. And what about you, Becky? Who did you meet that stood out?
I agree with Sarah. There were a couple of people that we met that I know that you guys are going to talk about, so I'll kind of hang back on that. But there were a lot of cool people. I think that especially there were a lot of people that really responded, like you said at the beginning, to us being there as Geek-Cetera. So that was really cool that people were really excited about the podcast and even were saying, can we be part of it? So that was kind of neat. I have to say that the highlights for me, though, was Nathan Salmon, who does 3-minute spray paint art. And he, as long as we were there, he always had a crowd around him watching what he does. So it was pretty cool. He was able to make really awesome scenery in the background of everything and people all around him. He made some really cool things. And I was persuaded to buy one because it was so cool. So now I have a bit of his art that I'm going to be hanging up in my house shortly. And it even inspired me to start watching videos after, and I really wanted to do it myself. I'm like, that is so cool. I want to be doing that too.
Yeah, and he had a really cool setup. He had, I would say, probably at all times, at least 10 people standing around just watching what he was doing.
And, of course, Dante Vasco, a.k.a. Rufio.
Oh, Rufio.
So just to plug Nathan Salmon a little bit, we got his business card from him. And Nathan Salmon's out of Sackville, Nebraska. So he travels around to do this art. But he's got a Facebook, a YouTube, an Instagram, and a Twitter. And his Facebook and YouTube, it is... his name on there is Salmnat, and for Instagram and Twitter, it's at Salmnat. And if you wanted to email him, you can email him at nathansalmon@hotmail.com. So he's got some really cool stuff, and you should check him out for sure. So that was what you had, Becky. What about you, Kyle? Who were the ones that you met that stood out to you?
The first person I wanted to talk about was Teresa. I didn't get her last name. She's from the 501st. Josh, you're more familiar with the 501st.
Mm-hmm. So she's from the 501st, which is a cosplay group that cosplay Star Wars. The local group for us is is called Alderaan Base, and what's the dark side called?
Vader's Fist?
Vader's Fist, I think, yeah. They actually have to wear costumes or have their costumes okayed to get into the 501st, and they have to be movie quality. So it's not just someone went into Party City and picked up a Star Wars costume and they're getting into the 501st. They actually sink serious dough into their costumes. And Teresa was really cool. I'll let you talk a little bit about her.
Yeah, I just, we talked with her for a long time, probably half an hour. And she was just so cool. She was telling us about what they do. It sounds like they do a lot of community outreach stuff, and they're a pretty tight knit group. But just going into how they make their costumes and the work that goes into it, it's not just you make your own costume. But if you're interested and you don't know something to do, they have like costume building parties where, okay, we're gonna go to Teresa's place in Connecticut and we're gonna just do stitching. Or we're going to go to this guy's place and we're just going to do helmets. And just the dedication that they put into what they do was fascinating. But I also just loved her. She was a cool lady. One of the things, and she was very welcoming, but one of the things in the first 5 minutes, I said, I was talking to Sarah. I said, hey, babe. And she was like, oh, I don't like that. I was like, what?
Oh,
she
yeah.
was like, yeah. You shouldn't call her babe. That's unless she really likes it. I find that as a negative term. So then I've been trying to call Sarah dear now, so I don't offend as many people. But I loved her costume designs. One of her very first costume was a Barra Sophie costume before she was even in the 501st, and someone saw her and said, "Hey, you should be in our group." And she looked awesome with the yellow makeup and everything. She has some others. She does a Martha. She has a Mon Mothma.
It's the Martha Stewart Mon Mothma.
The Martha Stewart Mon Mothma. Yeah. So she showed us some cards. There are some awesome costumes. Just seeing their pictures, but I have a couple cards of her in her costumes that she does. They're like, baseball trading cards, but 501st trading cards. So I got her to sign one of those for me. It was pretty exciting.
Very cool. Yeah, that setup over there that they put on is really good. I've been in the past where they had the Jabba the Hutt that was set up. I've seen that, and it was like it was a life-size Jabba the Hutt. But the one they had this time was Rey's speeder from Force Awakens. And it was life-size. I saw kids getting on it. I don't know if adults could get on it and get their picture taken, but it was pretty cool. And then they had a model of BB-8 in front of it, and they even had Rey's staff. So these guys do some really cool stuff. I mean, putting together like professional-looking stuff. So.
It was pretty funny. I think now that the times passed and I can look back on it. I think that for Teresa, she must have come to love Star Wars. No, I guess I can't say that. It seems like maybe she came to love Star Wars with the prequels because she knew Barriss Offee and some other characters.
Yeah.
But Jabba, she was like the slug. She referred to it as the slug.
Yeah, she did.
So it's like, well,
maybe she was in character, and that's what they call him.
That's true. She could have been in character.
These
She
people
was dressed as a
are
Jedi.
legit in character, crazy. Not crazy, but dedicated enough to their saying all the terms that their character would say.
Yeah.
So maybe she was just in character.
She could have been.
And they called him the Slug.
Okay, well,
That's my guess. I don't know.
Wow.
Everyone knows Jabba the Hutt.
Yeah.
If she's
That's
spending
Sarah's
thousands
theory.
of dollars on costumes, she knows who Jabba the Hutt is.
Yes,
yeah, I
dear.
would think so. So who else did you meet, Kyle?
Well, one of the other people I met that I really liked was Emily Druin. She is an artist, and what I really loved about, well, first of all, her art was really cool, but she also does what's called Kids Con, where she hosts a tamed down comic con for kids, where they can learn and kind of have a safe place to get together, once a year. And I just love that. Anything that's geared towards, the youth, that's positive. I just really am attracted to that.
Yeah, and her art was... I know what you mean. Her art was really, really colorful and really I really liked it. It was cool. It was family friendly, I would say. And she did a couple comic book series, and one of them she does is a sci-fi comic book series called Eplis, which is Eplis. And you can find more about Emily Druin. She's got a lot of places you can find stuff about her. EmilyAtPlay.com is her website. Then she's got an Eplis website, which is EpilisComic.com. So you can find stuff there. On Facebook at Eplis Comic. And then I'll get into the Kids Con stuff later on when we're talking about cons. But so there's some ways that you can get a hold of her and find out more about what she does. Anyone else?
Yeah, so you want to talk about Randy?
You could talk about Randy.
Let's
Okay.
talk about Randy.
Let's talk about Randy. Who's Randy? This is probably my favorite booth, and I was telling them. So they were at Granite Con. Of the things that of a price point I knew would need a second sign off.
Yeah.
I would need approval for fund spending. There were two items. One was a custom built lightsaber, and the other one was our beanbag chair from Nashua.
And you were able to get one of those at least.
I was able to get one of those, and I realize now I should have gone in reverse order because we went to the beanbag chair first and then to the lightsaber stand. So I was not able to make this purchase, but my favorite booth was from the Arm on Fire custom sabers and props stand. And it's a gentleman named Randy Smith and his wife who were running that stand. They make custom lightsabers, and it's not just, he's going out and buying pieces and putting them together, but he's a machinist. So someone will send him a picture of a lightsaber that maybe they found in a comic book or in some sort of art book from a film and say, hey, can you do this? And he will. I know he has a 3D printer, so he can do the internal workings of the lightsaber too. He works with soundboards and the lighting inside the hilt of the saber, but also the metal work of the actual hilt itself. Makes it fully working. We'll have blades that you can remove. We'll make a stand for your lightsaber. I was just really blown away by the intricacy of his work, and it was very exciting to see. We're hopeful to get him on here for an interview.
Yeah.
That he can tell us a little bit more about what he does. But he also works with the 501st, that group that we mentioned earlier. So he'll do custom sabers for them. He actually made one for our friend Teresa.
Yeah, and he was his booth was really cool. He had a bunch of lightsabers that you could actually hold, and his lightsabers were very similar to the quality, if not even better, than the FX sabers that they have out. The only difference, or one of the main differences, is those FX ones are mostly for show. They're art pieces that you can hang on your wall. His sabers that he built, he said you can wail on each other with. You can full on duel each other with those sabers, and they're not going to get broken, and they're going to stand up to it, which is really cool. The other thing I thought was really cool is he does custom. I think, Kyle, you hinted on that. He won't just build you the lightsaber that you saw in the movie that you love. He will build you something custom. And he said he built his wife a custom Pearl Jam lightsaber because she loves Pearl Jam. And so she had a Pearl Jam lightsaber built, which is really cool. Another thing, too, was that he had the ability that if you weren't 100% sure what color saber you wanted, you could switch. So if you hit one button, it would change the color of the lightsaber. So you could have it green at one point, you could change it to blue, or even change it to red. And so that way you could maybe be playing a Sith sometimes with your 501st costume, but then other times you wanted to be a Jedi and you just wanted to keep the same sabers because they're expensive. Well, then you had that ability to be able to do that, which was really cool. So just wanted to give a shout out to where you could find more stuff about Randy Smith, the creator of Arm on Fire Custom Sabers and Props. On the web, he's got his website is AOFcustomsabers.com. That's AOFcustomsabers.com. And on Facebook, he's at Arm on Fire Custom Sabers. And so you can check him out there and see all that. He's got some really cool pictures of different things, different builds he's done. Really cool guy, super friendly. And the funny thing is, I said that again, didn't I? I did it again. The other cool thing I thought was his wife was pretty cool because she's like, I'm not really into any of this. I'm not a Star Wars fan, but I know he likes it, and she was supportive of that. So that was cool. You know, having a supportive wife behind you, super important.
She'll get sucked in no time.
I think she's already been sucked in.
It's been years,
Yeah.
like a decade or something.
But one thing that was cool that you didn't mention is the props part of it too, is that he's not only building sabers, but he's also knowing that these people are trying to build their costumes, so he can machine certain little props that you find in the movies.
Yeah, so he for certain costumes, like let's say you were doing an Imperial officer costume, you would know that you need a bar that shows your insignia. He creates those, and he also creates code cylinders that would go in the shirt pockets on the sleeves. And in the Rebel pilots, they have different kind of cylinders. I think they're flares that they have in their boots, and they're cylinder looking, and he makes those as well. So he makes different props for mostly Star Wars that you could use for your costume if you were trying to go 501st.
Yeah, and what's neat too is he works with different type of metals. One of the saber hilts that he had there was made of brass.
Yeah, and it was super heavy.
Yeah.
I thought he warned me when I picked it up. He's like, "Oh, it's heavy," and I'm like, "Yeah." And I lifted that thing, and I was like, "Whoa, this is way heavy." Like you get a workout swinging that thing around.
Definitely. Well, maybe that will be my push for when I get a work because when I try to get my lightsaber, because I don't work out right now, but if that's how I get my workout, I mean,
say, honey,
it's
I'm
worth
trying to
the
get
money.
in shape.
Yeah.
I just need my lightsaber to swing around.
And I'll get a double-bladed lightsaber because I need one for both hands, right?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, dual wield.
Although you're gonna want to tell people how you got ripped. The lightsaber.
We're not shy. All right. Anyone else that stood out to you, Kyle?
Yeah, I mean, there were so many people we talked to, but the last person I'm going to talk about is Morgan Kittleson from Comic Books Care. It was Sarah, actually, who started talking to him, and she turned to us and said, "Hey, guys, you want to talk to him? This is what you guys are all about." And it was another guy who is doing things for kids and for his community. I know I put a promo out in our last episode. I'll put it out in this one too at the end of this. A message from our friends. What they do at Comic Books Care is they take comic books donations and get them to kids. And they weed out the ones that might not be age appropriate. He also said that if they get donations where it's a nice, expensive donation, that they'll send it back. Like, hey, did you know you were sending us this? You might want to put it on eBay instead. So just really nice guy, founder of Comic Books Care, and they have a good purpose. And that's it for me.
All right, very cool. So I had a couple people I wanted to talk about. Most of them are authors. I realized that afterwards. But we met T.H. Paul, who is a fantasy author. He wrote the Legacy Chronicle. He was a really cool guy. Had a nice conversation with him, down to earth, from Maine. And it was a nice conversation. I like that guy. He had done some really intricate maps of the world that he's writing stories in, and it really reminded me of like a J.R. Tolkien, like that kind of intricacy in his maps and just his thoughts for the world that he created. He really was all enveloped in that world, and that was kind of a neat way of writing. I kind of like that. And so you can find T.H. Paul at his website, which is thelegacychronicle.com, or on Facebook at facebook.com/Legacy Chronicle. So check him out. Check out if you're a fantasy guy, you like that kind of writing, a Tolkien kind of style, then you might want to check out T.H. Paul.
Yeah, I remember meeting him, and he was pretty cool. He's a teacher of literature at a private school in Maine.
Yep.
And I just thought that was neat because, he's probably always working on his craft. But he was saying that he doesn't mention that he has a book. He doesn't make his kids read it or suggest he reads it. They read it. Like, if they find it and come back to him, that's fine. But I like that he wasn't a big self-promoter because he kind of has a soapbox to be on one, but he's not that way. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, I agree. I thought that was neat as well. I think we all remember high school teachers that forced us to read certain books, and then we probably had, especially if we didn't like the book, can have bad memories of that class. I remember there was one class I had in high school where we were forced to read the book Equus, and that was awful. Just terrible. I really hated that book, and I'll always remember that teacher for that. So, don't do that to your students. So, anyways, moving on. I also met a gentleman named C.J. Daniels. He's a science fiction author. He wrote Evolution's End, and he also was he owned the company Off the Beaten Path Press. He was a really nice guy. Of course, they're trying to get you to buy a book from them. I didn't end up buying a book, but his stuff did seem interesting to me. He is on Facebook at CJ Daniels, the author, and he's also on Twitter at Commando Inc. And he has a website called thecjdaniels.com. So check out CJ Daniels if you're looking for a good science fiction storybook. It looks like it has a lot to do with space exploration and alien races and different things like that. So pretty cool stuff, very sci-fi. The next person I wanted to talk to was someone that we spent a few moments with, was a woman named Susan Soares. And she works for the company Altered Reality. And Altered Reality is an entertainment company. They put together Comic-Cons. And Altered Reality actually does Rhode Island Comic Con, Hartford Comic Con, Colorado Springs Comic Con, South Coast Comic Con, and TerrorCon were some of the ones that they do. So she's in press relations, and she was super cool because this was really one of the coolest moments, to be honest with you, for me, is we were going to Granite State Comic Con, trying to get people to listen to the podcast and trying to just say, hey, we're here, this might be something that you'd like to listen to. And she was super excited when she saw us, and she was like, hey, do you want to come to Rhode Island Con? I could probably get you press passes. And that was the coolest thing anyone has ever said to me.
Until we told her we didn't have Facebook.
Yeah, exactly. Then we told her we don't have a Facebook, and she said, well, I probably can't get you press passes. But no, it was still cool. It did give us areas that we realized that we have to grow into if we wanted to take this more seriously. And because of that, we actually did start a Twitter this week. So we do not have a Facebook. Unfortunately, we've been staying away from the social media because of the drama that is and stigmatism that comes along with it. But we do have a Twitter now, so you can follow us on there, on Twitter. But we do not have a Facebook at the moment. So maybe in the future, we don't really know. But if we can stay away from Facebook, I think we kind of want to do that as best as possible. But if we can get a press pass to go to Rhode Island Con, that would be really, really cool. I would not want to turn that down. So, and you can find Susan Soares. Their website is alteredrealityentertainment.com. You can check it out there. And then the last person that I talked to, or not last person I wanted to mention was a guy named Stephen Nadeau. He's an author. He's a science fiction fantasy author. He had a couple books that he was trying to promote there. One of them was called The Soul Web. It wasn't really this kind of story that I'm into, but he was just super friendly. Like this, and I said that again. I said it again. He was, I don't know how to say that without saying your name, Kyle.
Really
No.
friendly.
I'm going to have to change my name.
He was extremely friendly.
There you go.
He might even have been more friendly than super friendly, because this guy, like, we met him very early on in the show, or in the con, and then like every time we'd walk by, he's like, "Hey, there's my friends!" Like, he wanted to be our friend so badly, and he was super cool. But he was just a great time. Nice meeting him, and I love local authors because I enjoy writing, and anyone that spends the amount of time that it takes to write a story, get it published, and try to sell it is a cool person in my book, because that is a ton of work. Hats off to you. That is a ton of work, especially when you're not getting picked up by a big publisher and you're doing all the legwork yourself and all the promoting work yourself. That is just an incredible amount of time. And this guy even made his own T-shirts that he was selling at the con, which
that's
is
true. I forgot about that.
Yeah, and he made his own T-shirts and like tote bags, and like that was really cool. So so check him out. You can find him at stephenmnadeau.com, and just in case, I don't know in case you can't figure out how to spell his last name, because it is French, it's Nedeau. So stephenmnadeau.com, and you can check out about what he's up to. So I think we've covered everyone that we really met that we wanted to talk about. Is there anyone else you can think of, Kyle, Sarah, or Becky?
We did talk to a lot of people.
Yeah.
It is just hard to remember.
In the future, I want to bring a little notebook so that as we're going around, I'm writing down like things, because after going through and then not writing it down right away and thinking back on it a couple days later, it was like, man, that stuff slips out of your mind.
I guess one shout out to Double Midnight Comics.
Oh, yeah.
Our neighbor that we really like was working there, so it was nice to see him. After years we've moved away, so we haven't seen him in years, so it was nice to see him, and he was representing Double Midnight Comics out of Manchester, New Hampshire. Yeah, his name is Jim. Cool guy. He was a great neighbor. Although I miss having neighbors like him, I do not miss the neighborhood, unfortunately, but he was a good neighbor. And if we missed you, believe me, it's not because we didn't enjoy meeting you and talking to you. It's simply because it slipped out of our mind, but we'll try to do better in the future. One more shout out. I don't remember the guy's name, but he was super cool. He had comics to sell, but also his wife made... Oh, you have... I know his name. What's his name? His name was Jim Parente, and he's the owner of Finar Comics. And Becky bought a really cool hat from him his wife made. Crochets character hats, and that's what drew me to his stand, was because I saw these really awesome Ninja Turtle hats, and I really wanted one, but I have no idea who I would get it for. So I saw another one that was Olaf that his wife made, so I ended up buying that one for my niece. Yeah, so we got an Olaf hat for our niece, which hopefully she'll love. We did not give it to her yet, so... it's coming. I'm pretty sure she's just delaying on giving it to her, because if snow falls, she's going to be wearing it.
Yeah. Yeah, we only have maybe a month left, right?
Yeah.
It is a really cute hat. Samantha's going to look beautiful in it. Oh, so cute.
I was blown away by his comic selection. I know I shouldn't be as impressed as I was, but I had mentioned in an earlier podcast that I was reading Marvel's Secret Empire, and he had the most recent Secret Empire, like the most recent comic book that had just come off the shelf for $1.
Yeah.
I had just read it, and I know the guy that lets me read these from him. He had just bought it at full price, and it was there for $1. I didn't pick it up. He had the 2017 Darth Vader comic run, which I've been following. The Star Wars Theory guy will cover them as they come out, and I had been waiting for the most recent one to come out. That was there for $1. So I was just like, this is awesome.
Yeah, you were totally nerding out there. You were super excited. We spent a good amount of time as all of us looked through all his stuff that he had available for sale. And that was pretty cool. I love that. Being able to get the most recent comic book for $1, that's pretty, you can't really beat that deal.
Nope.
I knew Kyle was having a good time when I called him to say I was on my way, and he answered the phone in such a good mood. He was so joyful. You could hear the joy in his voice. I was like, wow, he never speaks like this normally. He must be having a great time at this Comic-Con. It was hilarious. And I would like to do a quick shout out to my friend Bill. I don't know if he's listening, but we used to work together, and I saw him at Comic-Con. He had his own table. When we worked together, he was always drawing every spare moment he got, and we got to go and see his table, and the amazing detail that he put into some of his artwork was really cool. So it was neat to see him there, kind of like following his dream and pursuing art.
Yeah, he had some really far out art, like really cool stuff, very colorful and out there, but it was neat.
Yeah, and it was kind of fun to talk to him because he said the things that he didn't think would sell sold. So I just let him know, this stuff is unique and different. So he had a good vibe going. He had a lot of really cool art, and people were eating it up. So shout out to him too, and continue what you're doing because people love it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm trying to think if that is everyone that we can remember to talk about. I think it might be. I'm sure we're forgetting people, but that's as many as I can remember at the moment. So let's move on to a message from our friends.
Hey guys, this is Superfriendly, live at Granite Con with Morgan Kittleson from Comic Books Care, and he's just going to give us a little 30-second to a minute on what he does, and we think it's really cool.
Hey guys, my name is Morgan. I'm actually the founder, CEO, head marketing monkey, just about everything for Comic Books Care. Comic Books Care is the idea of like you, someone you know, maybe even someone else knows that you have extra comic books or extra manga that you don't need. So what you do is you donate them to the nonprofit, and from there we sort them for quality and content and give them to kids at children's hospitals and family centers. And by quality and content, I mean we're not going to give Deadpool to a 4-year-old, or if it kind of smells like cat pee, well, thank you for the donation and politely get it away. That's what we're all about. Feel free to. We're on comicbookscare.com and .org and .net, and we're on Facebook at facebook.com/comicbookscare. So thank you, and please, the more books for the kids, the better it is.
Thank you so much, Morgan.
All right, so we're back, and we met a gentleman at Granite Con that was very perturbed at us. He was not too happy. As he saw us walking down the aisle, he saw the Geek-Cetera on our shirt, and he did not like the use of the word geek. He said that in his generation, anyone that called him a geek or a nerd would have been beaten up. And I wanted to spend a few moments just talking about those words like that, and how they make us feel and what connotation they give. I can't remember this man's name for the life of me. I looked through the pamphlet that I was given at Comic-Con that had all the different artists. I think he was an artist, and I just could not remember what his name was. But he was kind of irritated, I felt, with us because of our use of the word geek. And I just wanted to discuss this. We tried to set him at ease to us, geek is not anything negative. And I suppose I understand what he was talking about. When I was a 16-year-old kid in high school, I didn't like being called a geek, but I got over high school the day I graduated high school, and I did not keep any of that baggage with me. But I can understand why some people maybe would. To me, I hated school, and I didn't like it. I wanted to be done with it as soon as I possibly could. I didn't feel like I had really that many friends in high school that I was close with. So I wasn't upset when it was over, and it was very easy for me to let it go and move on. But I can understand that some people really, that stuck with them and stayed with them for a long time. This gentleman was older than I was, or I am. He was probably, I would say, in his 40s, and it was still bothering him after all these years. So what do you think about the use of words like geek, nerd, dork, any other maybe negative, terms that were at one point made or invented to poke fun? Do you feel like that it's a negative thing that we shouldn't be using?
I think for our generation, it's a little different. Everything is so techie now, and Star Wars is cool, and Star Trek is cool. It's expanded to a bunch of different people that like it. It's the age of the geek, as Hardison would say. So I don't think it's a bad thing. I know you guys put a lot of time and effort into choosing the name that you would have for this podcast. So me personally, it doesn't affect me in any way, but I can see why people that maybe grew up with a different generation would have bad feelings towards it, because it might have been something that they were called every day that hurt their feelings.
Yeah.
Just jumping off of what Sarah was saying, there are clearly negative connotations to those words, geek, dork, nerd, because it reminded me when we were coming up with the name for our podcast, one of the names that I had thought of was The Geekly Weekly, and I was going to spell it Weakly. And I mean, that's because that's kind of weak is kind of a term that's associated with like a geek or a nerd. Yeah. So I could definitely see why there would be negative connotations to those words. Yeah,
I suppose it's so hard because like I think of those words. So we use geek, right, for our podcast. But words like nerd or dork, I guess to me anyways, the most negative one might be nerd. Like being called a nerd sounds like a negative connotation. To me, a dork is just like when your friend is acting like a dork, you call him a dork. It's not like, I hate you, you're a dork. Like, I'm not hating someone. When you say someone's a dork, it's like they're a goofball. I don't know. Like, it's not a negative, mean thing. It's kind of like, I don't know, jokey a little bit, Like, oh, you're acting like a dork. To me, that's, geek. To me, the word geek means smart. If you're a geek, you're smarter than I am. You're a smart person, tech, you're into, and I always think of today's geek is tomorrow's millionaire. Like that is geeks are what make the companies tons of money and have great ideas and are really intelligent human beings. That's a geek to me. So to take that term of being a geek as being a negative thing, that we are making fun of someone, I would never want anyone to feel that way. And I hope they don't. To me, a geek is not a negative thing at all. The most negative of all three of those, I would say, would be a nerd. But even a nerd, if someone called me a nerd today, I wouldn't care. I would not care a bit. I'd be like, okay, yeah, whatever. Yeah, I like nerdy things. I would say that. I like nerdy things. Right? Like Star Wars and Star Trek and comic books and video games. Those are nerdy things, I suppose. But I don't know. To me, it's not negative. There's nothing negative about it. Is it negative to say someone was a jock? Is that a negative? You're a jock?
It can be. And that's where,
like a dumb jock.
That's where my mind goes is I agree with like what Sarah said. We're in a generation right now that really tries to embrace certain terms like geek, jock, nerd. We kind of own whatever it is because we don't feel personal about it being something bad. Whereas in the past, I think, or the way it's said, it can be termed as bad. So I could tell in this guy's emotions that it was something deep for him. He has held on to this for a long time, and it is kind of sad. So when he saw that name, Geek-Cetera, you could tell it really did bother him. And it is sad that he went through something like that. But I know we are living in a different time period where these words aren't bad, and we do try to own them. I mean, personally, I was called a nerd in school, but it was because of what I looked like, not even what I liked to do. I had big glasses, I had bad teeth, and big bushy hair. I was called a nerd and pushed around. Yeah, that stays with you, but I'm not gonna... I'm still a nerd today. I call myself a nerd because of the things that I like, and I own it. It just, to me, I feel like kids can take anything that they want, any term, and turn it into something bad. It doesn't even have to be the term geek, nerd. They can take anything and turn it into something bad. And I feel bad for those who hold on to those memories from school or from their early childhood and bring it into their adult life, because kids are mean. They're awful. But, we look at things today like there's the Geek Squad at Best Buy. They own that name. We don't look at them like, oh my goodness, they're awful for using the name geek. Or there's
That's a really good point.
Yeah, one of the websites I really, really like is geek.com. They sell some really cool stuff. They own that name. So we're seeing a generation where the use of the word geek is not bad anymore, but it's embraced and it's even empowering. So use those terms to empower yourself.
Yeah, I would agree with that for sure.
Yeah, we've been watching Stranger Things. Sarah hadn't watched it before. She was afraid to watch it. But we're watching it together now. And I've been thinking, I knew we were going to have this conversation, my mind keeps going back to it because we see the main characters, the kids, getting tortured by the bullies. Mm-hmm. And in episode 7, which is right before the finale, is where, just because they're getting picked on, like the bullies take it so far, and there's, they hold a knife to the one kid's throat and tell the other kid to jump off into the water like hundreds of feet high. And I'm sure, or at least I can't say I'm sure, I hope it wasn't extreme for that person or for any kid in America who likes nerdy things, or I guess I should say likes sci-fi fantasy, not to label. But, I feel bad if that's how it got there, or it got to that point for anyone. But I would say, thank you for liking those things. I mean, we were able to build a community, and it is now cool to have those interests. And you shouldn't have to be afraid of those things or hold on to those things, because things have changed.
Yeah.
And you were part of that change.
And I don't think you should have to be afraid or just afraid of who you are. Why embrace what you like? If because I like Star Wars and I like Star Trek and I like comic books and I like playing video games and I like that makes me fall into a category that people call a geek, then so be it. And let go of high school, man. If you drag that baggage of high school, that garbage and drama with you for your entire life, you're never going to enjoy life. You're going to become a miserable person. It's really going to drag you down. You cannot drag that with you. High school does not define who you are for the rest of your life. It shouldn't even define who you are for 12 years of your life, but for some reason people let it define who they are, and they take it way too seriously. Yeah, school's important to learn and get an education, but beyond that, let it go. Who cares what happened in high school? Let that stuff go, because if you drag it, it's just going to make you miserable. That's all I have. I felt like you like it? Felt like I got on my soapbox a little bit. But anyways,
I guess from Geek-Cetera, we do feel bad for anybody that has gone through anything at the hands of bullies. We do not promote that in any way, shape, or form. We do feel for you. Geeks for life.
Oh, yeah. So, very good. I'm glad we got the chance to have that conversation. I hope that gentleman, I know he took one of our business cards. I hope he actually does listen to the podcast and hears that and knows that, hey, it's okay to like certain things. And if you want, and you know, maybe you don't love the fact that it has a label on it, but embrace it, man. Just embrace it. You are who you are, and don't care about what other people think.
And believe me,
and
those,
you were among friends.
Yeah, and those bullies, they're not living good lives.
Yeah.
If they're constantly putting people down, you can tell that they are not the ones living the good life.
That's true. Very cool. I'm glad we had that discussion. So there, I just wanted to take a few moments to talk about some of the cons that are coming up, because we found out about a few of them while we were there, and I briefly touched on them. But we're seriously considering probably going to do it, is go to Rhode Island Comic Con. So I have a little pamphlet for Rhode Island Comic Con so that others can find out more information. We're really impressed with the Rhode Island Comic Con list of celebrity guests. I mean, if you go to ricomiccon.com and check out the list of guests, it's incredible. Just the names go on and on and on and on and on. And it's just awesome. I'm really excited for that Comic Con. I don't even know how I'll be able to contain myself with excitement for that one.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to leave my credit card home.
We might find good stuff, though. We might need the credit card.
That's
you never
true.
know.
I think we're going. I can't see any way that I'm going to be able to do anything else that weekend, knowing I know it's
We
going on.
should stay over.
Yeah,
That'd be fun.
absolutely. I
Yeah.
would do that.
Well, you should just make sure with your
My
wife.
wife is right here. She's okay with it.
That looks like anniversary
okay.
present, November 10th through 12th.
Yeah. So it is our anniversry on the 1st of November. So why not? And so
You should go as a bride and groom.
Oh,
Be your
brother.
outfit.
Oh, brother. I can't even fit into my wedding dress anymore.
Me neither.
So Becky mentioned it's November 10th through 12th in Providence, Rhode Island. And so if you want to check that out, like I said, ricomiccon.com. On Twitter, it's at ricomiccon. And on Facebook, it's /RhodeIsland.comiccon. So check it out. I mean, the list of people is incredible. If I had 3 hours for this podcast, I would go through the entire list. But that's basically how big it is.
Just say a couple people to get the
Get to whet their appetite.
Yes.
William Shatner.
Yes.
Christopher Lloyd.
All right.
Dave Bautista. Elizabeth Olsen. Paul Bettany. Gene Simmons. Dolph Lundgren. Carl Weathers. Val Kilmer. John Cusack.
Ooh.
Yeah. Freddie Prinze Jr. Weird Al Yankovic.
Freddie Prince.
Freddie.
Hey, that's Star Wars Rebels
It
right
is.
there. We can bring our. We could. Oh no, Kanan's not on that.
He's
picture.
not.
Never mind.
Only Ezra is. Anthony Michael Hall, Brent Spiner. I'm just scrolling through. The kids from Stranger Things are going to be in it.
We love those kids.
We do love those kids, and we're sorry they got bullied,
Yes.
even if it was on TV.
Gates McFadden, George Wendt, Ian McDermott, Joey Fatone,
Not the
Jonathan Frakes, Judge Rutherford, Judge Reinhold,
John O'Hurley.
LeVar Burton, Lou Ferrigno, Marina Sirtis, Michael Dorn. I'm skipping names because there's so
I don't
many
know
that
how
I
you-
can't read
you
them all.
guys
Sean
are-
Astin.
I don't know how you guys are going to see all these people.
I don't know either, but I'd like to.
We'll make it work, Becky. We will make
Yeah.
it work.
So
Inconceivable.
Wallace Shawn,
Is
Tom
it,
Wilson.
Is it Millie Bobby Brown,
Who?
the Stranger Things girl? Millie Bobby
She's
Brown.
not going to be actually there. It's
Oh.
It's not that. Which ones is
It's
it?
the bully
It's
kid, isn't it?
Caleb McLaughlin, who is
That's cool. Lucas.
and then the kid that has. I can't remember the kids' names now because I watched the show so long ago.
The curly-haired
Lucas
kid.
and the curly-haired kid that has the gap in his teeth.
I don't remember, but I like him the
Yeah,
best.
me too. He's awesome.
Dustin.
Dustin. So there's just a ton of people going to be there. So we really want to go badly. So check that out if you want to see the guest list yourself. There probably is people that you know that I just didn't mention because I was reading quickly through the list of names that stood out. And then the other Comic-Con that's coming up, kind of coming up, and Kyle talked on it, is KidsCon New England, which is going to be held in Nashua, New Hampshire, and it's going to be on June 10th in 2018. And they're going to have some really cool workshops for kids, some sketch-offs, costume contests, and tournaments, and even a Jedi training. So if you want to check out KidsCon and you think it's something that your kids might be interested in, like I said, it's for a younger crowd. I know, Kyle, you mentioned that you were excited to bring maybe your niece or nephew.
Yeah, my niece does her own animations. She makes short animated videos and she loves art. Mm-hmm. So I thought bringing them would be pretty cool. And just off of her website, the KidsCon New England, the mission statement here says that their focus is on family-friendly comics, art, and fun activities, inspiring creativity and learning, promoting art education and literacy through comics, cartooning, workshops, games, and more. So that's just kind of a little snippet into what they do there.
Cool. And so ways you can find more information about KidsCon is they have a website. It's kidsconne.com. And then on Facebook, it's KidsConNE. Instagram, it's KidsCon. And their email address is info@kidsconne.com. So check them out. I think it seems like a really good time. And Emily Druin is the one that's going to be actually running that con. And she was really cool. So I think you guys will enjoy meeting her.
Yeah, her art is a lot of fun. And she just seems like a real great person.
Yeah, it was really fun.
Going back to Rhode Island Comic Con for a second. Luke, Kelsey, if you're listening, Chase, we're on. At least the four of us. So,
make your arrangements now.
Yeah. Challenge is on the table.
Yep, absolutely. So, very cool. And that would be awesome if we get everyone to go from the show. Probably hard to do, but we'll see what we can do.
They gotta get shirts.
Yeah. Before we move on, let's pause for one of our sponsors.
This segment is brought to you by Preventure Service Company. Got a major renovation you need done? Armin's been doing it all since 1981. For fast and friendly service, contact Preventure at gsinet.net.
All right. So welcome back, and at this time I wanted to take a minute to let the ladies talk about their thoughts on GraniteCon.
All right. So I was thinking, this is Becky, by the way. I was kind of thinking I might take a few seconds to talk to Sarah, since this was her first time at GraniteCon, just to see like what her first impressions were, and just kind of compare them to like what my first impressions were, and so on and so forth with different topics. So what were your first impressions when you got there?
It was bigger than I thought it would be. It was at the Radisson Hotel in Manchester. I thought it was the perfect venue. They have multiple ballrooms that were in use for different exhibitors, and a lot of people were there. Did you feel that way too? It was bigger than you were expecting? I know you'd been there before.
This year definitely was bigger than when I had gone a few years ago. So what was your first impression, like how you felt when you were there?
I felt intimidated. I felt like I was the weird one because I was in jeans and a t-shirt, and I had to say at least 85% of the people that were there were in cosplay. Mm-hmm. It was incredible. It blew my mind.
Yeah, and see, when I first went, it wasn't really like that. When I first went, I kind of felt like I don't belong. I don't really know much about comics. I don't know Doctor Who. But when I went through more, I realized it's not really about that. GraniteCon kind of embraces every sort of geeky thing. We're all connected by our love of nerdy things. So it was kind of interesting. I was able to identify certain superheroes and characters. So I was like, okay, I got this. Plus, I saw Super Smash Brothers playing, and I'm definitely down with that.
It was very neat to be there. When I first got there, I had trouble finding you guys, so I kind of just stood in the lobby. And some of the best people watching you will ever find is at a Comic-Con.
Yes.
And like I said, at first it was very intimidating because the people that were there, the amount of effort and time and detail that went into their outfits was phenomenal. And at first you're kind of intimidated by them, but then as I stood there and watched, I started like smiling at people that would walk by, and they'd smile back at me. There was just this sense of community after a while, like we're all in the same place. Clearly we all like the same thing, so let's just be friendly to each other. I thought it was really cool.
Yeah, which brought me to my next question. What did you think of the cosplayer costumes? So that was, you're touching on that a little bit.
Yeah, it was very interesting. There was a girl dressed as Harley Quinn, one of probably the original version, like with a Joker hat and like a full body unitard, but she was acting 110%, even with the guy that she was with. I don't know what he was dressed as, but the way she did her voice and the way she would interact with him, and then she'd walk by people and like go interact with them, it was incredible. She was full on in character. She was great.
Yeah, with the cosplay, at first when I started coming years ago, I was kind of like, oh, I'm not gonna do that. It kind of feels like an excuse for the ladies to dress in tiny bits of clothing, and that was not going to be me.
Lots of that.
But I've seen over the years how people have really embraced it and become all sorts of different characters, so I'm kind of slowly changing my mind about it, and I may actually decide to dress up as something next year. Nothing crazy, but it might be fun to do that once in a while.
Yeah, it definitely would be fun.
And I agree with you about what I notice with people too, is when they're in costume or cosplay, they feel invincible. It gives them a sense of purpose and a confidence that you normally don't see in people otherwise. Like I remember a guy last year that had no problem going up to all the ladies merely because he was in costume. He had a full mask on, so no one knew who he was. He was going up to all the ladies. So hats on to everyone who lets loose and becomes invincible for the day. So, you mentioned a little bit about the venue that you liked and the vendors that you liked, but how did you feel about representing Geek-Cetera?
It felt good. It was nice that we were all together, kind of in our own little pack, walking around. You guys had been there for hours before I was able to get there, so it was nice that you guys had this confidence about you, like you knew where you were going, and oh, we got to go see this person, and we got to show you this over here. So it was kind of nice just being led around, because you guys got to kind of discover and explore a little bit ahead of time, which was good because we were pressed for time by the time that I got there. I forget what the question was.
Yeah, so representing Geek-Cetera was a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and when you got...
You can edit that out, right? Okay.
Yeah, when you got there, it became like a force. Now it was four of us. Even one of the guys, the vendors, knew, hey, you added someone. So that was kind of fun when you came on the group.
Because you guys had...
Mr.
Nadeau.
Yep.
You guys had already gone around and made friends, so I felt like I was kind of with the cool kids.
Yeah.
Because like you guys had a ton of friends there already, and I was like, yep, I'm with them. I got the shirt. So that was cool.
Yeah, and they wanted to be with us. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, so it was fun this year because it wasn't just weird kids walking around, but this time I felt like we were a team. We were there for a purpose, so that was kind of fun.
And it was nice to represent something different because I could have dressed up as Princess Jasmine because I would have got to meet her that day, but there were 4 other Princess Jasmines walking around.
Yes,
it was neat to like have our own thing and have our own theme.
It was kind of like Jasmine
stand out and be different.
It was kind of like Jasmine through the ages and through stages of her life. This is the low point.
Yes, there were some
good
Jasmines and some Jasmines that needed to get better. Yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting, but hey, like I said, hats off to you. So, what do you think will make you want to go back next year?
I think it'd be neat to just spend the day there, even if we're able to go to Rhode Island, to spend more time, because it will be neat to kind of go in and explore and discover like you guys were able to, and spend a little more time getting to know people. I love getting to know people, so it'll be fun to like talk to them, and if there's something I'm interested, I can go up to them and ask them questions. And everyone there was just super, super friendly. Like Kyle. Super, super friendly. It's easy to do.
I know, isn't it? Tell me about it.
Is.
It's crazy. But it's nice to like walk in and feel like you're accepted already.
Right,
Because
yeah.
we're all into the same things. We all think everything there is really cool. So I'm looking forward to that in the future.
Yep, I agree.
Oh, it was neat. I got to see 2 people dressed up as Mal and Zoe from Firefly. That made my day. That was awesome. So like just seeing like people dress up as other characters that you love is one of my favorite parts too.
And what would you go back as next year?
Oh my goodness.
You're not married to it. Don't
I
worry.
don't
You
know.
can say something now.
I don't know. I kind of liked wearing jeans and a t-shirt. I liked feeling different.
So you're comfortable, girl.
Yeah.
All right, we'll have to think on that.
I just started reading the 2016 run of Darth Vader, and there's a character in there, Kyle, you probably know Dr. Aphra. Mm-hmm. And when I was reading that, I was like, Becky could totally be Dr. Aphra. Like, and I think that's kind of cool, is that if you go as someone like, there's a ton of Harley Quinns, there's a ton of Jokers, there's a ton of ones like that, really popular characters, but there's not too many Dr. Aphras or some bit character, that would be really cool.
Yep.
So
We'll have to think about it.
Yeah, finding a not as well-known character I think would be
Yeah.
neat, because then the only people that would know you is if they already know what you're supposed to
Yeah.
be. So that would be cool.
Yeah, so like I feel like there is a ton like of the ones I mentioned, Harley Quinn, Joker, and then like Batmans and Supermans and stuff like that. There was a lot of Jasmines there this year because she was there. But then there's a ton of Doctor Who's and like different stage like doctors, I guess, the different doctors of Doctor Who, but there's a ton of Doctor Who's, which is
And not just like the new seasons.
Yeah.
I saw a Tom Baker. I saw some other ones from the original, definitely not recent 2000.
Yeah. And then there were some ones that you do not see every day. I think someone mentioned K2SO, right? There was a K2SO.
That was amazing.
That was pretty cool.
Oh, come on.
That was amazing.
But the Hulkbuster.
But then there
better.
was a
didn't see the
Hulkbuster.
Hulkbuster.
I wish the Hulkbuster was around more because I would have liked to gotten a picture of it. And I didn't think about it when I first saw it, and I didn't see it for the whole show. But there was a Hulkbuster that was very cool.
I guess that's the thing we need to consider, Sarah, is if we go back as anything, are we going to want 1 million people taking pictures of us? We'll have to make it good costumes. The only other thing I need to say about Granite Con is I would like to go back next year, but I have seen the price slowly increasing. I can't say that I'm super hardcore about going, so I hope that they keep it at a price point that makes it easy to go. For the 2 of us this year, it was $60. That may not sound like a lot to someone who really, 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 really loves going to Granite Con. I do like going, so I hope it stays at a price point that is affordable for the 2 of us to go.
I hate to tell you, but Rhode Island Con is a lot more than that.
Hey!
It's you
Happy
end up,
anniversary!
as these cons, like when we used to go to Granite Con initially, the guest list was small, and there wasn't any real big names.
It was $10.
And it was $10 to get in. Now they're starting to get bigger. They're starting to get bigger names, and the price is going up. It's because it costs money for them to get those guys to attend. So they gotta raise the price somewhere. So
Well, don't charge me more to get in and not let me take a selfie with Dante Basco.
Exactly.
I see your point there. Yeah, but so was that it? You girls had for your discussion?
That's all I had. If Sarah has anything else.
Nope. That was good.
Very good. So, we hoped you enjoyed our extra special episode of Geek-Cetera. It was like a family edition, as we had our wives with us. If you have comments, concerns, or hate mail, please email us at geekcetera@gmail.com. And for more information on Geek-Cetera, like where you can find the podcast, please visit our website at www.geek-cetera.com. And also, as I hinted before, we have a brand new Twitter. So please follow us there on Twitter, which is at geek_cetera. And we'll see you next time. But until then, I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
She's dead, Jim.
May the force be with you.
Bang bang.
For more from the geeks, please check out geek-cetera.com. This podcast was brought to you by the Geek-Cetera team. Now this is podcasting.